It's not amazing, but for some people that's good. So like for me, I need an app. Like just make it easy. Give me a freaking app to log into. But for an elderly person who's not tech savvy, that may actually be effort. For an elderly person, they may love the paper. And so you have to figure out what is important to this person, figure out what is the difference between the person that you're talking to versus the other person you're talking to. And that's what makes sales a little bit harder, because everybody is very different. So we have to figure out what is important to someone. We have to figure out what their expectations are. And then from there, we just need to meet them. All right, so I am trying out something new here, guys. I'm trying to stream across like 10 platforms. I have no clue what the hell I'm doing here. So let me just check this real quick because I have no clue if we're even live here. I'm trying to stream across Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook group, but I have no clue if I'm actually live on any of those right now. Either way, I'm just going to kind of do this. So either I'm talking to no one right now, or maybe one of y'all actually see me live here. So we'll see. It says I'm live, so we'll just kind of look. So what I'm hoping to accomplish here today is I hear it all the time where someone tells me that they're trying to get someone to actually start a plan of care. They're wanting them to either pay out of pocket, they're wanting them to pay their copay, they're wanting them to pay $5,000 for a deductible, $2,000 for a package, something like that. So something big package, or just the smaller ones. Or maybe they're not even really inherently seeing the value of why they need to come as often as you want them to come. And so really all that comes down to is they don't see the value in physical therapy, and they're placing value on something else that is more important to them. Sometimes that's money. Sometimes they value their time more. Sometimes they value other options that maybe don't align with essentially what you do. And so this is kind of something I'm going to kind of walk you through. So this is what one of my mentors walks through. It's typically around offer creation, but this is actually an actual equation. You can look at value to then see how do we actually make this better for someone to do it, because value is kind of this amorphous of like, oh, just bring more value. Like, I don't know if that's just like we make sure they have nice snacks. Is it that we actually get them the result? Like there's all this kind of like ambiguous what that could mean. And so what we actually have to look at is, well, what does that mean? And how do we actually quantify that to actually include this? So what I'm going to do is go ahead and share my screen. So again, bear with me, brand new software, decided don't even test it. Let's just try to figure it out as we go. So I think that this will allow me to then share my screen here. Let's see, share screen. If I could actually see you, I'd be able to tell you like, are we actually live here? Again, no clue. We'll see. So what this is you're going to then look at, so value equals, and then we have to kind of start to actually quantify what that is. And so for many people, the main thing we're looking at here is going to be the dream outcome. So for us, that could just be, hey, I just had surgery. I actually want to just make sure that I can get back to where I thought I could. Some people don't have big dreams there. It's just very simple. They're not asking for much. Or maybe they're at 9 out of 10 pain, and like dream outcome is not, hey, I want to get back to actually like doing stuff with my kids. I want to make sure that I'm available for vacation so I can go to Disney with my grandkids, or I want to go perform and do whatever X big sport is that their whole life is all about. Sometimes there's small dream outcomes, which means we have to kind of extrapolate more of this equation. Or sometimes they have really big ones and they're like, hey, like if I could get back to actually like being able to do all this stuff at work, it could mean I could actually provide for my family, not have risk of losing my job, and actually have the status of being maybe a good provider, a good dad, or being a good example, because maybe they want to go out and go play catch with their kid. Whatever that happens to be for them, that is their dream outcome. And so our dream outcome doesn't matter. It's what is their dream outcome. So that's like kind of the easiest way to look at this. The next thing is going to be, it's going to be perceived likelihood. I know this is a long one here, of achievement. So I'm just going to put achieve. So this, how likely do we actually think that this is going to happen? And so for many people, when we look at this, we don't really realize like we kind of have to look at both these things. It's dream outcome. Well, but if we don't think it's actually plausible, it doesn't really matter. And so when we look at that, that's one thing to kind of look at that. All right, so I'm going to ignore this for now. Perceived likelihood achievement. So if you don't think it's going to happen, it doesn't matter about your dream outcome. If you have a small dream outcome, then you're going to have a very good likelihood of actually getting it. So that's why like when you order from Amazon, you think, hey, I'm going to go buy this one thing. Well, you don't really have to look at reviews for like something that's a couple bucks, because you know it's pretty rare for you to not get something from Amazon whenever you purchase it. where a perceived likelihood for us is going to be up to a lot of things. So one of the things we're going to be looking at is going to be testimonials. So that is going to then show that we have social proof that people got the results we talked about. That could be graduation. So that could be like us actually taking a picture of someone whenever they get better, having them share a snippet about the thing that they helped them achieve. So that way we can help that. Testimonials is not just any kind of testimonial. We could do video. We could do written. We could do Google. There's all of those options that you can look at. You got the graduation, which is like the actual outcome. Testimonials may not even be around outcomes. It's just that you actually cared about the person. Could be that he had good staff. Because I don't know about you, if I've ever gone to a place that has terrible staff, it doesn't even really matter if the doctor was amazing. Because like, I'm not even I'm just like, oh my God, if this is how everything is, like it's going to be rough. And so sometimes it's about that. It's maybe on your website, do we have like these big authority badges on the top that say like, hey, X amount of Google reviews? Hey, best of awards. Do we have any of that social proof so where someone can see like, okay, like they've done this before? When someone comes in, do we have testimonials on a video screen that shows them all the people that you've helped with similar issues? Did we send them emails whenever they opted in around shoulder pain around someone who had similar issues to show that you were actually expert? Did your front office do a good job of conveying the fact that it's common that you see those things and you're working with the best person to actually help you with that? Did we do a proper handoff? Because there's nothing worse in healthcare than you talk to one person, go to the next person, he asks you the same questions, go to the next person, he asks you the same questions. It's like, do these guys even communicate? Doesn't give you a lot of certainty. And so your perceived likelihood of achievement goes down. That could be having a wall of graduations inside your stuff. The only time I've ever cared about all your little numbers and letters and all your stuff behind your name of the alphabet soup that all of us PTs kind of look at, this is the only time I care about it. Put your actual graduation, your certs, all of that stuff in your evaluation room. Because again, they may not know what it is, but it seems likely the more of those you have, probably the more educated and actually better you are at your job. May not always be true. I'm sure some of y'all can probably name some people that have a lot of certs, but are still very, very, very bad clinically. Certainty and kind of the perceived likelihood of achievement is just like, well, how good did we even listen? Because I'm sure they've been somewhere where maybe clinically they were good, but they didn't even really listen enough to actually get to the point of figuring out what the true issue was because they didn't actually listen or care. So all of these are the things that we can do to increase the top part, the numerator of this equation. And so most of us are very, very good at doing this. Looked at the bottom part of this. And so the bottom part of this, time delay. So how long does it actually take to get better? This is why surgery is usually such a common option. This is why they want injections, because they think they're going to be good, not knowing that 6 weeks later they're going to have issues. This is why so many people are taking pain medications, because it gives at least a very quick time delay gratification of getting to what they think, which is pain reduction, but it doesn't solve the real thing. And so for us, we are always kind of going to have to fight against this time delay because we can't really heal people magically. So we have to set very good, proper expectations while not also making them think this is going to be like a year-long ordeal. And so when we look at this, it's like, okay, well, if those are the delays, well, and surgery is technically one of those things that in their head, it's I show up, I get surgery, and I should be better. We need to bring to light the fact that that's actually not the case. Most of the time when they have surgery, what do they need after surgery? They need physical therapy. And so since they need physical therapy, is it really actually saving them any time? Sometimes that's someone who you're trying to get in 3 times a week, or maybe it's 2 times a week, but they're like, nah, I'm good. I only want 1 time a week. Well, if we saw them more frequently, would we be able to get them better? So if we can explain that to them, it'll actually have a perceived likelihood of, yes, it's technically more time for them to do it because they're having to come in 3 times a week, but we can kind of shorten that time frame. We're building new habits. We're building strength faster. We're getting to all those things that we can do, but you can't do that maybe if you're only coming 1 time a week. Time delay here, this is what is kind of hurts a little bit of our aspects of our guys that do like the 60-minute one-on-one. I don't know about you. I always use this analogy because I was in the dental field before PT. If someone wanted to actually take out a tooth because it was like maybe abscess, have a big old cavity, would you rather them do that in 40 minutes or would you rather them do that in 60? And so for some people, 60-minute one-on-one could actually maybe increase their perceived likelihood of achievement. They feel like if they have more one-on-one time, they're more likely to actually do that. The longer they're maybe more likely in their head, and it's going to help the outcomes. But for others, they're like, that just sounds like we're having to spend more time. That sounds like actually part of our actual equation here. Sorry, I got dogs barking. You got effort, and then you got sacrifice. So sounds like a lot of effort right here for me to have to stay here for 60 minutes. But that's also counterintuitive to this. If I have to come 3 times a week, there's a lot of effort there. And so this isn't to say one model is right, one model is wrong. You just have to think about how these things play into how someone thinks about value. Because whether they think about it or not, yes, I realize most people, unless they follow Alex Hormozy, aren't writing out the value equation when they're deciding something. They're actually thinking about this very subconsciously. And so you need to be aware of this, because that's either the other option that they're looking at going to, or that's what they're thinking in their head. So time delay, we know that we can probably get someone better faster if we're going 2 to 3 times a week versus 1 time a week and hoping they do their home exercise program. But we also have to know that 3 times a week is a lot of effort for them. They may even have to be sacrificing something. Maybe if they're an hourly employee, they're sacrificing money. Maybe they're sacrificing time. We have to kind of figure out, are we wanting to sacrifice time in the short term, or are we wanting to sacrifice in the long term? Because short term, you may sacrifice more. Hey, I don't have much time for Netflix because I've got to do some exercises at night. But long term, are they actually getting more time back? But again, these are always being at play. So when I hear someone say like they didn't see the value, it's like, well, what part of the value? You have to get a little bit more clear on this stuff. And so this will allow you to start to look at this, because effort is going to be all of the effort they have to do. So that's maybe they have to do more exercises, and there's someone that maybe likes manual therapy more. Maybe effort is actually having to like show up on time. Maybe it's remembering their exercises. There's a lot of those things. Sacrifice, maybe someone's afraid of needles, but you really want to do dry needling. So you need to know that that is a sacrifice they are thinking. And if that goes up, that actually means value in itself goes down. So we ideally want to, of course, increase these as much as possible. And we want to decrease anything down here as much as possible. But the thing to consider when we're looking at this is if we're looking at let's say we started at 10 and maybe this is a 1. Well, if we go up to 100 here, that's cool. We got up to 100 and it's still 1 here. But even if we stayed here and didn't even extrapolate that dream outcome and perceived likelihood of achievement, the closer we get to 0, so essentially the smaller this denominator is, anything divided by a 0 is infinity. So a lot of times we're so focused on this stuff, which again, you can do a lot of this stuff, like dream outcome. You're typically, if we're not digging deep enough in sales conversations, we're typically not getting into the real dream outcome. Perceived likelihood of achievement, we haven't framed enough stuff. We don't have enough authority. We haven't actually thought about all the things they want. Time delay, these are the things that we may not be able to actually change, or maybe we need to get better clinically. Like I've got a lot of guys that are very good with like TMR. So there's like very, very quick pain relief. That's probably the fastest actual pain relief you can get. Some of you may not agree with TMR. That's for a whole nother conversation. But if I can get symptom relief within the first session, that's a pretty easy way to decrease time delay and actually increase the perceived likelihood of achievement. If I've been dealing with something for 20 years and in 20 minutes, you were able to decrease my pain by half, probably good likelihood that you know how to actually do that even more in the future. And so we have to walk people through these things and just know that the more we can focus on these things on the bottom, the more valuable things are going to be. So sacrifice could be even just like, maybe it's sacrifice is like, I have to give up something to do my exercises. Effort could be someone actually learning how to use the technology with your exercises. So some of you use some of these janky, like, let me write out your stuff on this piece of paper, or you got these old printed off stuff on HEP to go, and it's not amazing. Sorry, HEP to go owner, if you're listening to this. It's not amazing. But for some people, that's good. So like for me, I need an app. Like just make it easy. Give me a freaking app to log into. But for an elderly person who's not tech savvy, that may actually be effort. For an elderly person, they may love the paper. And so you have to figure out what is important to this person, figure out what is the difference between the person that you're talking to versus the other person you're talking to. And that's what makes sales a little bit harder because everybody's very different. So we have to figure out what is important to someone. We have to figure out what their expectations are. And then from there, we just need to meet them. Like most people are so trying to like go above and beyond and exceed expectations and do all this crazy stuff. And like, don't get me wrong, like you buy like your pricing is something that goes in here too. I want to make sure I hit that. Perceived likelihood achievement. If someone charges, let's say someone charges, I got a lot of insurance guys. They'll do like $70 a visit. Meanwhile, someone down the street, hell, a massage therapist at Massage Envy's charging $2 a minute, so they're at $120 a visit. And you got some of my cash guys doing. I mean, I got guys from $250 to $375. If you hear this price point without anything else, which one do you think is more likely to actually get it? Just based on that, you'd probably assume that this person right here is probably going to be the one that actually gets you that actual outcome with a higher likelihood, because they've got to be decent to be charging that much more than this person. It's only 70. And so that's the other reason we need to like work at our pricing. Because if your insurance, it's like, cool, you're now charging $250 per visit. So that way, when someone says $60 is your specialty copay, it's like, hey, normally it's $250 a visit, but luckily you've got really good insurance. So it's actually only going to be $60 for specialty copay so that we can get you back to XYZ. So we increase the perceived likelihood of achievement without even having to charge the $250. You price anchored. Price anchor is just a way to increase the perceived likelihood of achievement. So I know this is kind of some nuanced stuff, and there's ways to really layer this stuff on. It applies to everything and applies to hiring, and I'll probably do another video on that. But always be looking at this, because for someone to take action, if they do not, it's because our value is too low. But it doesn't have to be this ambiguous, like, how do I provide value? How do you get more value? Do I need more CEUs? Anything like that? Like there's like 500 things that make this up. And that's just like me kind of riffing on this super quick. There's a lot more things that you could do that you're probably not. So just take one of these things and just try to improve it. And I guarantee you're going to have people actually starting to see the value in what you do. All right. You have a good one.